Hello, today we're going to look at scale position 5. A scale position is a 4-finger group of notes on the guitar neck, and in my experience, most guitarists think in terms of 5 of them, give or take, and they move in order. So position 1, if it was there, then position 2 would be here, position 3 here, position 4 there, etc. But where the positions are is arbitrary because it all depends on what key you're in. What I call position 5, and what, in my experience, a lot of guitarists call position 5, is the position, the 4th fret position, where our tonics, our note 1 in the scale, is on the E strings and the G string. So we've got E string, both of them, that's our tonic, and the other tonic is on the G string. So clearly we can play the G string tonic with our 1st finger and the other tonics with our 4th finger. So that's the position there. Position 5 is one position, if you're right-handed, is one position to the left of position 1, because the positions go in order. If you use the caged system, which I don't and don't particularly like, you may call this position the G position if you want to, but I've never particularly liked that and I don't find it particularly helpful. I much prefer numbering them. Position 5 being there. And that's our tonic chord in position 5 if we're in a major key. So if we're in major key, in this case, E major, our tonic chord is there. That's our 1 chord, and that's our 1 note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. That's the major scale in position 5. Of course, I could play in any key. I'm only up here because I'm playing in E. If we played in D, still position 5, but I'm in a new key. I'm in D, I've shifted. If you're right-handed, I've shifted 2 frets to the left. Position has got nothing to do with key. It's got nothing to do with what fret you're on. It's all to do with where the tonics are in the scale, or the key that you're thinking of. Tonic being note 1 in the scale, or Do, if you like the Do-Re-Mi system. So position 5 is a very nice position for certain styles. Like all positions, they're quite conducive to certain styles. In this position, we've got a major chord on our 1st finger, half bar, D, G and B strings. So that's a major chord. Very useful, of course. We've got another one there. Yeah. So all that rock and roll Keith Richards stuff is particularly nice in this position, because we've got chord 1, chord 4, 1, 4, 1. It's particularly nice for the major scale because we have all these notes on our 1st finger bar. We've got note 6, note 2, note 5, note 1, note 3, note 6. We're using our 1st finger right across the board. And any position where we use our 1st finger a lot is comfortable, because our 1st finger is probably our most useful finger when it comes to comfortable positions on guitar. It's the closest one to our thumb. And it's easy to orientate yourself when you're using your 1st finger a lot. The major scale is particularly nice in this position because we've got lots of nice bends on your 1st finger or our 3rd finger, and bends on your 3rd finger are probably the nicest ones because it's a strong finger and we've got 2 fingers, 1 and 2, to back it up. So we've probably all done that bend before on the G string upper tone. great in position 5. So major country stuff is really nice because of our first finger being used so much, and because of the nice the way the notes fall. Now, chords. Because we've got 7 notes in a scale, well, I'm excluding pentatonic, etc. 7 notes in a scale, we've got 7 notes in a key, that's more like it. 7 notes in a key, 7 chords in a key. So in this position, we've got our 7 notes, and we've got our 7 chords. So we have chord 1, built on note 1. Chord 2, built on note 2, and there's that classic minor 7 chord, root note on the A string. We've got chord 3, not so common shape, but it's fine. Chord 4, great as a major 7. Chord 5, that's our dominant chord in a major key. It's quite nice there. Not the most common dominant chord shape, of course. It's not the classic bar, but it's fine. There's our dominant chord. 1, 5, flat 7, 8. There are notes in the chord, our chord tones. 3, 5, 1, 5, flat 7, 8, 3. And then we've got our minor, chord 6. That's standard bar chord, isn't it? Minor standard bar chord. I call it type 1 because the root note's on the E string. Here we go. Still in position 5 because we're still orientating our main thinking around that initial scale that we played, the major scale, in this case the E major scale. But of course, if we hang around on that chord for a while, it will sound like we've changed to a minor key, which we haven't, it depends on your definition. There's the tonic root note of the minor chord. I still consider that note 6 because I'm still thinking in terms of the major scale. And then the final one, the funny one, that's note 7, minor 7, flat 5. Again, we're still in our little group of 4 frets, we're still in position 5, and we're still thinking of the major key. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then back to 1 again. There you go. Now we want to learn all the note numbers in that position, inside out, 2 octaves, 2 and a bit octaves. That's the same as saying, learn your do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do in each octave. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Or is it do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do, which I was told off by a Spanish person once because I should call note 7 C and not D, not T. I think tea is a English thing. Oh, I don't mean cups of tea. Well, that's an English thing as well, but do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do is evidently an anglicised version of what it should be. Do, re, mi, 1, 2, 3. That's what we should learn because we explain music in terms of note numbers. Even if we use letter notes, which are fixed, of course, the more fundamental way of explaining music is with note numbers because note numbers are all relative. Letter notes are not relative, they're fixed. Fixed in terms of note frequency, an A being 880, etc., 440. Whereas the note numbers are what we hear. We hear the relative difference between one note and the next. 1, 2, that's a tone. 2, 3, a tone. 3, 4 in the major scale, semitone. 4, 5 is a tone. 5, 6, tone. 6, 7, tone. 7, 8, semitone. We don't hear that that's E, F sharp, do we? Unless you've got perfect pitch, we don't hear that. We don't hear that it's E, F sharp, G sharp, A. We don't hear that. B, C sharp, D sharp, E. Again, unless you've got perfect pitch, you're not hearing that those notes are the actual letters. What we recognise is the major scale, and we recognise the gaps between the notes. Tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. Music is about what we hear, isn't it? Not what we write down on paper. Incidentally, what we write down on paper, in other words, music theory and music notation, should always help us play. If it doesn't help us play or it doesn't help us understand music, then it's no good. Like Occam's razor, we should always use the simplest explanation for everything. And this is in particular importance when it comes to music theory. There's absolutely no point having a complicated explanation for something if you don't need it. Because music is about playing and it's about creating and self-expression. And the underlying meaning should be as simple as possible. We've got enough problems on our hands playing the damn music, let alone analysing it and theorising it. So every note, every note in the octave, every scale, every mode, every chord can be played in every position. And this includes non-diatonic, harmonic minor, whole tone, etc. If I play the whole tone scale, I'm still in that position. I'm still in those. Give 90% those 4 frets. Sometimes you have to shift out of it a touch, or stretch, or shift your first finger to the left, stretch, or shift to the left, just to accommodate the next note. See, I've shifted up my full finger. I'm still in position 5, because it's not an exact science. Most of my hand is still in that 4th position, that 4th fret position. But I have to shift up, and then I am back into my comfortable zone. If I have to shift first finger to the left, I'm not out of position there. I'm just shifting 1 fret to the left. We don't have to get pedantic about it. Long as most of our stuff is in those 4 frets, that's fine. That's position 5 in my book. So we can play every scale, every mode, everything we can imagine within those 2 and a bit octaves, because an octave is only 12 notes and we can do everything that we ever want to do within those 12 notes. We don't need any more. So in every position, we've got 2 and a bit octaves. We can play everything we want in that position. So there's no reason why we can't practice in that position for a few months to really analyse it and play everything that we want to play within that position. Some things will be harder than we're used to, if there's certain chord shapes we're not used to. Some things we might find that they're easier. Like I said, certain styles are really nice in certain positions. So if someone says to me playing in E major, then this is a particularly nice, for the major scale. It's just comfortable. If I was playing the Dorian scale, natural minor, etc., then it might be a bit different, but it's fine. We've still got our root notes. Sorry, our tonics. I tend to use the word tonic and root note to mean the same thing, but technically speaking, root note is in a chord, note 1 in a chord, tonic is note 1 in the scale or the key. So in, for instance, Dorian, there's our Dorian scale. Again, position 5, because our tonics are in the same place. Or natural minor. Natural minor. There's the arpeggio. Doesn't matter what key we're in, still position 5. It's to do with where note 1 is. So it's very easy to change your idea of what the key you're in, what scale you're in, and still be in the same position. Because, again, it's just 26 or 27 semitones, 2 and a bit octaves, like any other instrument, like any other position, like 2 and a bit octaves on the piano. We can play everything in that position. The reason we talk about positions so much on guitar is because it's a stringed instrument, and only stringed instruments have positions. Because we can play the same note in different positions. So the idea of positions doesn't really exist with wind instruments or keyboard instruments. It's because we can play the same note in different areas. If I could only play that note, that pitch, there, then we wouldn't really need the idea of positions. But because I can play that note in lots of different places, open, B string, G string, D string, A string. Those are all the same note, aren't they? So when a guitarist approaches where to play something, you've always got that question, where shall I play that E at whatever frequency that is? Where shall I play that exact E? We don't have that question on most other instruments. So we can explore position 5, we can shift out of key and still be in position 5. This is position 5. So is this. I've just changed key. I've just changed key. There. I'm in C. C mixolydian. Still position 5 because my tonics are there. If I change to F, my tonics are there. Now they're an F. I could change to F. Anything. Natural minor. Did a little shift up there, didn't I, to accommodate the notes, but again, that's fine. Harmonic minor. Still position 5, because my tonics, if my guitar was in tune, oh dear, my tonics are where they are. Same with pentatonics, makes a difference. What is a pentatonic scale? Nothing really, it's just a normal scale with 2 notes taken away. There's no big thinking needs to be done about pentatonic scales. You just take some notes away. If you played a major pentatonic, you just take away note 4 and note 7, that's it. It's just a major scale with note 4 and note 7 taken away. 1, 2, 3, we don't play note 4. 5, 6, we don't play note 7. And the major pentatonic is, again, very easy in this position. Even with a passing note. So if we're doing our chord combinations that we play in as regular things that we like to play, songs that we like to play, or songs that we're learning, or new stuff that comes along that we can't play that we want to practice, we can practice them in a particular position, can't we? So in this position 5, 1 chord, 2 chord, 5 chord, our dominant, 1 chord. There's our 1, 2, 5. 1, 2, 5, 1. Or our 2, 5, 1. 2, 5, 1. 2, 5, 1, 6 dominant. 2, 5, 1. our little chord changes and stuff in that position, maybe to learn new combinations, fingerings, etc., or just to play what we like to play. 2-5, 2-5, 2-5, 1, 2, 5, 1, 6, 2, 5, 1. What I did in one of those 2-5s, 2, 5, that's a substitute chord. It's called a tritone sub. So, because I'm still in my group of, we're in F now, aren't we? How do we go to F? I'm still in my group of 4 frets. That's still in the same position. That's what's called a dominant substitution. So the 5 chord, which is a dominant chord, in this case, a C7, C dominant 7. We can swap that, or we can swap for it, a dominant 7 chord 2 tones higher. Sorry, 3 tones higher. Let's try. 3, try again. 3 tones higher, or 3 tones lower, or a flat 5. So the flat 5 of that chord is the new note 1 of our new chord, the new root of our new chord. And in all positions, you just get to learn where those little substitution things are. So I'm not thinking too much about it. I know that if that's the dominant, that's the sub. If that's the dominant, that's the sub. And when we play that substitute chord, we can play the arpeggio of that chord. Arpeggio is a chord, isn't it? An arpeggio is a chord if you can't play all the notes at the same time. So we've got... That's the dominant 7 substitute, and that's all substitutions are. They're a chord that you play instead of another chord, with the reason to open up new ideas for new melodies, new notes. A new chord makes us think of a new arpeggio, makes us think of a new set of 4 or 5 notes. That's, what is this? This is F sharp 7. So I'm playing 1, 2, 3, 5, flat 7 from the chord, dominant 9 arpeggio. And that dominant chord or dominant chord substitution resolves back to our 1 chord. Dominant substitution back to 1 chord. Or we could just stick with the original dominant. Dominant, 1 chord. Dominant, 1 chord. 5, 1, 5, 1, 5, 1, 5, 1, 2, 5, 1. So everything, obviously I'm rambling on, but everything that we can play in another position, we can play in this position. But it's going to give us different fingerings, different combinations, things that we find harder, things that we find easier. But to be honest, if you're up here already in whatever position and someone says, or you read that you want to play a G minor 7, you're probably going to hit that. So you're probably going to, considering this is, if this was a chord 2, we're going to hit that if we're in that area. Most guitarists would hit that if they're, whoops, train's going. Most of us would hit that minor 7 chord, G minor 7, if we're in this area. And that's, we don't think about it too much. That's our 2 chord, then that's our 5 chord. Already there, aren't we? So, if we play that as a 2, we're already there as a 5 because most guitarists think in terms of position. And we don't want to change position all the time. We don't want to change position, particularly every second. Once we're there, it's nice to plant your feet, so to speak, in that position. 2, 5, 1, 6. Like begging. 2, 5. Dominant, well that's actually a diminished substitution, but same thing. It's almost the same as that. dominant substitution. Back to our one chord. Okay, that's about it. I'm trying to think of something else, but there probably are things, but practice positions, practice all the notes in the positions. And when I say notes, I mean 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't mean the letter notes. It's the note numbers that glue music together, not the letter notes. I mean, if you play, if your guitar's out of tune, you're not playing the right letter notes anyway. And if you're playing a transposing instrument, which in a way guitar is, you know, it transposes an octave, but if you're playing a transposing instrument, you're not playing the letter notes you think you're playing anyway. But the thing that never changes is the note numbers. The note numbers never change. The note numbers define a major scale. That's what we hear. That's what combinations our ears like. It's not the letter notes. The letter notes are completely arbitrary. Someone decided 1,000 years ago, or they didn't, but maybe a few hundred years ago, that an A was 440. Someone decided that. It could have been different, couldn't it? Couldn't have been 400. If someone decided it now, they probably would have picked a different number for no particular reason. So letter notes are arbitrary. It's the number relationship that glues music together. The chord numbers, the chord tones, not chord numbers, the chord tones. Well, yeah, the chord numbers, which are basically the note numbers in the scale. The note numbers in a chord, the chord tones. Numbers is what glues music together, is what we understand. It's the way we understand how music works. If we think of a 2-5-1, in any position, in any key, we know that the 2 goes up to the 5, because that's the way the number relationship works. We know 2 to 3 is a tone apart, because that's the way the relationship works. All note numbers are based on the default major scale. So the default major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. That's the default major scale. That's the way note numbers work in music, certainly in the Western tradition anyway. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. By definition, we are going from 8 down to 7, a semitone, down to 6, a tone, down a tone, down a tone, down a semitone, down a tone, down a tone. That's our default system. Just like QWERTY on the keyboard. That's our default system. And that's where our numbers stem from. And that's where the whole of music theory stems from. The number system. Anyway, I think I'm going to catch that train now. Bye-bye.